Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? It's your man Jay Kevin here with my co-host, my shy partner, Leif Taylor. Just going to have a conversation about all things health, wealth, relationships, happiness, and everything in between. Current events, not so current events, whatever is on your mind. But Leif, I think I'm gonna start the conversation off with our topic for today: coping with chaos. Or I was thinking, after we talked about it, I was thinking maybe coping through chaos.
Yep.
And of course, I mean, this is what, January the 8th, 2021. So I don't think I have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway on what's gotten me going, what's gotten us going in this direction as far as talking about coping and chaos. I think the last couple of shows, like we talked about 2020 and that year and what we thought 2021 might bring. And I think we and I think we got our answer on January the 6th as far as how this year is looking to shape up with respect to the previous year, 2020.
High
And
gear.
we're
High gear.
huh?
I said high gear.
Yeah, and then where we're probably going from here. So it looks like it's going to be another interesting year to say it in a good way, a nice way, an interesting year as far as just about you pick an area um, of human endeavor, human activity, and it looks like it's just going to be an interesting year. Thinking about, of course, politics, thinking about health, thinking about the economy and people's wallets and purses, thinking about people's emotional states and where they might be. Just thinking about just you name it, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting year as far as where we're going. So just not to get too much into it. We had the storming of the Capitol, I guess you could say, as far as Washington D.C. is concerned, and wherever one may find themselves as far as where they fall on the spectrum of their ideology, to say the least, wherever you fall on that spectrum, there are a lot of people that are feeling anxious. They're feeling weary. Some are feeling anger. Some are, a lot of people are feeling depressed, saddened. Uh, just wherever your views are. I know a lot of people are feeling this, and one way we can measure this or get a glimpse of this is by, of course, trolling the internets, and just
Trolling
looking
or
at
scrolling? Yeah.
scrolling, and some of us may even be trolling. I don't know, but just walking down the timelines of various people and individuals and posts and stuff, you can see that um, a lot of people are are strongly opinionated about what's going on, and to find something that's unifying, no matter where we fall is, we all have to find a way to cope through these times and maneuver through this chaos as best as we can, so that we can come out on the other side in a position that is advantageous for all of us, no matter where you are, um, so that we can, not only just survive 2021, but thrive as individuals, as a family, as a community, and also as a nation. As I'm talking, when I said nation, I'm thinking about uh, Michael Savage, one of his quotes is borders, language, culture. And no matter where you fall on your ideology, when it comes to a nation, we have to have strong borders, nations, and a culture if we want to maintain some form of unity and maintain some form of structure when it comes to the world at large. So with that, I was thinking about some ways to cope, and something that really came to mind is the need for uh, the phrase digital detox came to mind
Hmm.
as far as something important when it comes to coping. but also the phrase of just stopping and, pausing and taking a break and giving yourself room to kind of see what's going on, and not initially with the reflex react, but respond.
Yeah.
Hey, Shauna, but just to have a response versus a reaction to what's going on, to kind of get a handle on what's going on, so that you know you and I can make decisions that's going to help us be in the best position possible when it comes to just about anything, when it comes to any pillar of human endeavor. So, taking a break, digital detox is a few things when it comes to coping. Getting good sleep. I brought up the Calm app, and I think that's been really important or essential when it comes to like ways of coping when it comes to getting through some of these times. Um, the Calm app has classes, and it has like programs and things that somebody can like go through to help them maintain some form of calm about them whenever they find themselves in chaotic situations. Like, it's broken down into segments like meditation, sleep, music. They got like a master class, and then it talks about things you can do. Huh?
That's how I remember this app. I didn't realize it was still around.
Yeah, it's still around. It's got like some pretty big names on there when it comes to this area of operation. I seen one with LeBron James on it. So it's got some pretty big names on it right now, as far as like people that are participating in it. But that's just one way, using apps, Calm apps, thinking about stopping and resting, digital detox. Another one is exercise, food, family, and just putting yourself in good environments, and not allowing yourself to, like I said, get caught up in the contagious emotions and feelings that is running rapid right now. So what say you, Leif?
Yeah, in terms of just coping, again, I don't know, just like this assessment, you always assess everything. Like, so a protocol of safety is you assess your environments. So one way to stay calm is just to assess your environment and make sure that you're well suited to fit in whatever environment that you're in. Exercise is a good way to do that, in terms of not only releasing dopamines, but also just the more fit you are, the more confident you are. And so it just helps you cope with a whole lot of different things. So
If it's
you don't fear unrest in the same sense if you're physically prepared and physically ready, and actually that gets you mentally ready.
Man,
So
that's a good point.
yeah, so that's one thing about it. Like when you see the thing, it's funny. I was watching is the video. I don't know if you know Tony Baker is. Tony Baker, he does like the voiceovers on videos, comedian, and he was showing one of the guys scaling the wall, and he fell. It's like he got it all the way to the top, and then he just like fell, and he voiced it over. But one of the things that made me think of was, in terms of fitness, is just being physically prepared for whatever given situation, and that's very necessary, especially my wife and I, we were talking about just like hiking and walking long distances and things like that, just to be ready. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst kind of things. And when you're not physically fit, your anxiety levels will get higher, because you subconsciously know that you're not prepared for like the worst, in a sense. So
Yeah.
so definitely that. Of course, I believe in prayer and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's
And
number one. Yeah.
then also just uh, talking with people about your frustrations. That's a way to cope. Just talking it out, talking it through. I know Clubhouse was blazing after I don't even know what day that was. All the days are still the same to me.
Yeah.
When everybody was doing that, because everybody was upset about how just unjust and how unfair just their treatment of the Trump supporters versus every other group that has been protesting and things this week. So just talking it out, and then also just in times of chaos is we're talking about coping, but just holding public officials accountable. That's always of order, because if you want to get things in order, you have to get your leadership and all of those things in order to make sure that the chaos subsides. You don't want to continue in the chaos. So that is part of it as well, just being civically engaged. Okay, somebody made a comment. Hey, what's going on, Marion? Being civically engaged, being socially engaged, and those kinds of things as well, because you can't, the longer that you don't talk about these things in an open forum, then the longer these things continue
That's
on.
true.
Yeah, so you have to openly address it, and we've seen plenty of Congress people jump on their podiums and talk about it immediately, just so they can, one, state where they are, kind of thing. Some of it's pandering, of course,
No,
but yeah, it's just
it's
part of it.
politics.
Yeah, exactly. It's just part of it, right? But they're at least you know for all intents and purposes are saying, hey, this is where I am, regardless of where I was yesterday. Regardless of where I stood yesterday, this is where I'm saying publicly, right? Or 15 minutes ago. So that is part of it as well, in terms
Y'all
of,
like Kevin yesterday, but today, I don't know about that dude.
hey, he's gonna feel like a champ today, right? And, and so that's part of it as well. And again, just seeing things for what they are. Clarity and truth always helps to cope with things. And for me, no matter how bad the situation is, I always feel better when I know what exactly the situation is, if that makes any sense.
So one way
So
to cope is
yeah,
always seeking clarity and truth, like you said, doing
exactly. So
research,
So for me,
reading.
I want to unravel whatever mysteries are there, for my given situation or for a situation in my neighborhood, or whatever. For me, the more information, the better, in terms of, now that I know what's going on, I can properly make the right steps to correct it or rectify it, or like if you're
Adjust
losing something,
accordingly.
it's like stop the bleeding, so to speak, that kind of stuff. So I think truth is a great coping mechanism, whether or not you want it or not, right? And so yeah, so those are just some of the things. Of course, reading, and that's part of gaining more information, getting more insight, and then also just mission vision, uh, assessing what's going on and staying to your core beliefs and uh, core
Values.
goals. Yeah, values, goals. Like for me, somebody was like, everybody's getting distracted, blah blah blah. I don't buy the whole distraction piece. As if you can't pay attention to multiple things at a time. However, like I don't let anything, like in quarantine, I didn't let it sidetrack me from focusing on what I had planned for the year. Uh, this week's events won't stop me from focusing on what I've been focusing on in
So
terms of moving forward, goal setting, and but
to learn
trying
how to keep things in perspective as far as
just trying
what.
to be a better person. Period. Right.
Yeah,
It's not to say that I'm oblivious or that I keep my head in a hole, but
right.
it's I was drawing the day that it happened, and I'm drawing the next day too. So it's just what it is for me, and in that, I just keep it moving, and also just talking. We talked about talking, but talk with your community. For me, my immediate community is my wife and my
And
children. Talking to my kids about it, and, just I mean, now they're old enough. They have great logic, so it's not like it was when they were like 4 or 5 or anything like that.
right.
So we have just real conversations with our children. So anyway, that's just some of the ways you can cope, some of the ways you can deal with things. And again, it's all about endorphins and that kind of stuff. Just the feel good instead of the anxiety. Eustress versus de-stress,
Yeah.
and the same thing that we've been talking about: community, communication, cooking, eating good food, making sure you don't put bad things in your body, because the last thing you want to do is be extremely sick in a time, like this, or any time really. Sometimes are definitely better than others, but you just don't want to be sick anyway, regardless. So just those kinds of things.
Yeah, man, you hit on a lot of things. Like when you're talking about family, that made me think of how, your connections, like you said, and how important it is to have those conversations with your immediate connections, and making sure that, that everybody may not be on the same page as far as, where they fall, but at least everybody's ideas and thoughts are getting heard, and, everybody knows where everybody stands. And at the end of the day, um, everybody knows the core values on which you all's connections rest on. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because everybody in the community is not going to think or feel the exact same way, or perceive or interpret events the same way, but at least everybody is aware of the underlying core values on which you all's connections rest, and that's very important in chaotic times.
Yeah, and it's just good. Again, just going back to the whole truth thing, right? Truth is vitally important. Just to know, like for example, there you have, especially been online, you have many connections with people. You have loose
Yeah.
connections, you have strong connections, and some people just you're really not connected to at all. They're just there, right?
Hey,
And
Miles.
so just understanding like you said, where your allegiances lie in a sense, and why they lie there, right? That's what you have to keep in mind. And not, I don't know, like some things, like I'm rarely surprised in terms of people's interactions, who does what, all those kinds of things. And so I don't I don't let those things sidetrack me in a sense. And I'm not saying that, confronting somebody for spouting ignorance is being sidetracked at all. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like, okay, I know how to add things together. And what I mean by that is like, okay, you do a certain thing, you do this, you do this, you say this, you say this. Chances are you think this way. And if you're a close connection, then I already know how you think anyway, because we have discussions and we have talks, right?
Right.
One of the things that we used to do in our office, like it was all the engineers, we used to talk about like we used to talk about race, politics. We talked about all the
And
socially
you're not supposed to. Yeah.
taboo stuff, right? Because again, if you believe in truth, if you believe in transparency, then those are the kinds of things, those are the kinds of conversations you have. I know some people are of the mindset like, when you get online, be careful of what you say. I agree with that. However, on the one hand, if you don't align with my views and my values anyway, I don't care if we have a close connection. I personally don't. It might not be the marketing thing to do, right? It might not be the
Right.
right way to market. A lot of people want to stay like neutral and try to be Switzerland and everything. But in some instances, that Switzerland won't exist. It just won't. And so for me, from my standpoint of the way I view freedom and the way I value freedom, I'd rather know how you think openly, and instead of finding out in a chaotic time how you actually think, right? Because when people's stress levels are high, they're more than likely to act,
They go to default.
yeah,
They
exactly.
go to
They go to
instinct.
default, and then it's like, okay, I'd rather have you turn against me in a time of peace than
Yeah.
in a time
Then
of
be in the
chaos.
crowd.
Exactly, it's the wrong time, right? And
Yeah.
so when I talk about like truth and understanding relationships, those are the kinds of things that I personally value. Those are the kinds of things that I personally believe in. If I have an issue, then chances are I'm going to say it. Like I don't have that turn it off kind of thing. If I don't say it, then it means I really don't care. And so I'll just move on, and then we probably won't have many conversations after that. But if I care, if you're a person that's in close connection with me, then you're gonna hear about what my complaints are. And that's not to say you do tell truth. Some people want to say that they use truth as a way to be jerks and buttholes and those kinds of things. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just having a matter of fact conversation about the state of a given situation.
Those being able to have those difficult conversations without letting your emotions run away or having other.
I mean, because chances are, if you don't have the conversation, your emotions are still there anyway.
Yes,
that's just the reality of it. It's like people try to hide it, they suppress it,
and that's not coping. That's compressing it down, or
just packing the gunpowder in the shell, right?
Eventually, it will come out, and it won't be no coping. It will be
So it's that kind of stuff. So those are ways that when I think about coping, that's how that I view it. And even she said they call it brutal honesty, but really it's tacky and mean. Yeah, and so people hide behind that because again they're not being truthful either. They say that they're being truthful, but they're really not. They just want to be mean, and it's like, oh, this is a way for me to be
excuse. So we have to be mindful about how we present, what we're feeling and what we're thinking. We just can't just go all out and say, hey, I'm just going to be brutally honest when you just want to be mean.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because really, like, I may have even said the term, but where's the brutality and honesty?
Yep, that's the adjective that's added on.
Yeah, exactly. It's just honesty. It's just like, okay, here's and again, you can say it in a way, just be matter of fact about it, no inflections, whatever. Just like, hey, I don't like this. I don't like the way you're doing. Okay, how can we handle this? And that's the way you want to do business. Well, that's the way I prefer to do business with people. It's like just put it out there and let it fall where it may. It's like, maybe this won't work. This is what I'm thinking. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
For some people, that's that takes a lot of practice. For some people, that comes more easily than others. As far as having those difficult, tough conversations, just matter of factly. When you were talking, you were making me think of an episode of. I've been watching a lot of 90 Day Fiance stuff. I don't know if you.
I still haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
Oh man, well, it just reminded me of a couple of episodes I've been watching where. This couple and these friends were having a conversation. They were saying some really hard things, but it was just like you said, matter of fact, in a matter of fact manner, and it was just face to face. And it's like, whoa, that takes a lot of maturity and a lot of practice and skill to get up to. It's not, for some people, it's not something that's easily done. So.
And like you said, it's something that you should practice on a small scale. Like, so when you think about family, like, I think about like the environment that we have with our children, right? That's the training ground for those kinds of conversations, right? You want to train and prepare them to have those conversations, especially when they have, you have children that have, their siblings. So there's more than one. I know this more than anything, so you have to teach them how to have, conflict resolution, how to have dialogue and say what's on their mind, because like you said, not saying something is not helping the other person. It's not helping your relationship at all. That's it becomes cliche, but it's a reality that communication is a part of any given relationship. And if you have terrible communication, then you probably have a terrible relationship. And communication can happen in a variety of ways. And communication could be like, okay,
nonverbal.
Yeah, like it could be nonverbal, and I'm even talking about just on a business sense, or just how you interact with people, right? So say you work in an office with somebody, it's not even, it's like, okay, if you have something that I need, then I need to let you know that it's going to be ready by a certain time, And that may be the only communication, but in terms of that relationship, it works smoothly, right? But when you take away that dialogue or the fact that, I'm posting when this is going to be due, then it causes stress and anxiety on the other side because, they don't know what's happening. So that's just a small example, but going back to the family dynamics and training for honesty and how to deal with people, point blank in a sense, then you start cultivating that in your children, cultivating that between husband and wife, those kinds of things. Because if you don't, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely a skill that has to be honed, especially when it comes to emotion management. When it comes to having those conversations. What was it? What was it? Oh, yeah. I had an incident. Just thinking about that, where sometimes you get caught off guard and you default, and I.
What
I just, oh man, I don't know, man. You just default. So you have to really practice, because if you don't, you're going to go back to default. It depends on where your default is.
He shows that he's a sad guy, but it's like his default. What are you talking about? He's breaking his nose like, oh, hold on.
I had to do my lathe. Let me breathe. Which is another coping mechanism, by the way. Taking those moments where you just breathe, like.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah.
And that's something, even going back to what we were talking about earlier, and how this revolves around coping and with chaos and all of those kinds of things. The issue is, if you don't start developing those kinds of dynamics in verbalization and just communication, then you have situations like you have at the Capitol, right? You got a bunch of idiots going crazy and running through the Capitol, which hopefully they'll all be arrested, detained. A lot of those people should have been shot for real.
Why you say that?
Because it was illegal for them to do. It's tyranny. Some of those people said it was a revolution. The one woman that got shot actually said she was doing it for a revolution. And so, yeah. And so, but anyway,
as citizens, they have a right to
break into
to make their presence known, to make their.
I'm talking about people outside. I'm not talking about protest. I'm talking about the people that were breaking into the Capitol building.
They didn't break into the Capitol. They was let in.
Yeah, a lot of them were, but the ones that bludgeoned the cops, all of that. So when you start thinking about that, and you start, thinking about how it got to that point, you think about like the Trump rallies, you think about and just the dialogue that's been happening since forever, how people it's like it becomes more and more polarized, right? We talked about polarization before we got on. You talk the more and more things get polarized, then the less real communication that happens in between.
And that's and that's that's going back to finding the importance of learning how to cope and maneuver through chaos, so that
let me put that back up. I didn't know if you saw that.
Going back to my main point of finding those unifying factors like borders, language, culture, like those things that we all have to do and have and need in order to progress and move forward.
Yeah, and here's a simple one, right? Because we could literally disagree about everything under the sun. Right? One thing that we'll probably agree on is the fact that I don't want to be in pain and you don't want to be in pain. So in other words, is if we don't get this resolved, then one of us is going to end up hurting the other person, and we both going to get hurt. And then it's like, okay, do I really want to spend this amount of time? Some people are psychopaths and they cannot be helped regardless. That's just the reality. But for a normal
majority, a
normal person, they don't want to be inflicted with pain, separated from the families, whether it be through jail, death, whatever, hospitalization, all of those kinds of things. So at the very least, we can agree to disagree and not be, like Martin Luther King said, disagree without being violently disagreeable, right? And so that's a commonality, because you have to figure out where the core commonalities are, regardless of who the person is. regardless. And that's just part of, it is, even the scripture says, much as it as lieth in you, be at peace with all men, right? Because some situations, peace
It's not.
is not going to work.
Yeah.
But for the majority of your life, it's not like, the majority of people fight every single day, right? I'm sure there's some people in the world that have to fight something every single day, but the vast majority, probably 90% of the population, 99 probably for real, don't have to physically fight every single day. And
most people just want to go to work, have a good life,
or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, it's like, okay, how do we just focus on that aspect of it and then have conversations from there on up, right? And how can you be mature and have, conversations about disagreements and all of those kinds of things? I don't care if you yell and all of that. It's like, just don't touch me, right? It's like, don't call me by my name and all of these kinds of things, because the goal behind those kinds of things are to hurt you, right? And so when we talk about mature conversations, that's literally what we're talking about. Go ahead.
But that's another thing that takes a lot of practice for many of us too. When, like you said, some people, when you yell or escalate your voice, some people take it as offensive, and they take it as somebody actually being physical with them, and it escalates. So
sometimes it's exaggerated.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to see what they want to see. So I don't like, so here's one thing that, I always talk to my wife about, because she's nice. I'm like, don't excuse somebody's behavior and give them the benefit of, I don't give people the benefit of the doubt. I judge you based on what you do. So and what I mean by that is, if you do something that's off the rails, then I believe you intended to do something off the rails. If you're an adult, I think that, you're wise enough to not do something stupid and know that there's consequences behind it. I don't like, well, I got impassioned. No, you knew what you were doing. When you got in your car, you drove and you went wherever you went and you said what you said. I'm not a public apology type person. It's like, you shouldn't say it if you don't mean it to begin with. And so that's why I'm saying, like, I don't excuse somebody's, it just got the best of me. No, you got the best of you. It was you. So and again, this is part of being matter of fact, and this is part of having honest conversation, because a lot of times we excuse abhorrent behavior. We talk about stuff. It's like, okay, because if you're going to excuse one person's behavior, then you have to excuse it across the board. If we're talking about justice and equity and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not an excuser of behavior type person.
So you're Judge Dredd.
I guess
see the movie with Judge Dredd.
I've seen like thousands of movies. I have no idea.
It's like, you break the law, that's it. Ain't no pleading the court, ain't nothing. You broke it, and you gonna get the consequences, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it's just literally that's what reaping and sowing is. Like, I mean, it is, and so I'm that way just from the standpoint of, like, if it's okay for one, then it's okay for all. It's that simple. So, yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Well, I don't know if we had conversations about this in times past, but as far as our personality differences, I'm more of a give grace type of person.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in, and here's the thing, I believe in grace, but again, even with that, it's like, okay, if you can excuse one, then you can excuse them all.
You could. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to. It just depends on the circumstance.
Hey, I said what I said. but yeah, man, because again, it's that sliding scale of partiality that leads you to situations that the public is constantly in, right? You talk about injustices and those things, that sliding scale of partiality that causes a lot of issues.
Yeah, it does. Which I think sheds light to the fact that there always has to be, dialogue. Well, I mean, that's why we have government, and that's why we always have open conversations and constantly going, because you can't just lay down one rule and that's it.
Yeah.
If that was the case, there wouldn't be no need for lawmakers and politicians and government and all these other institutions and mechanisms we have set up. It would just be, hey, this is the rule, black and white, 10 commandments, nothing else. You break it, that's it.
I'm cool with that.
Well, it's a good thing. Well, it's a good thing. You're not the sheriff in town, then.
Actually, I'd probably be a better sheriff. Boom, boom. Because that'd at least be fair. But yeah, because again, like, so when I think about this, so we're talking right now. This is in case you checked in. I'm gonna do a clubhouse thing. We're gonna reset the room. Is what they always say. But anyway,
reset the room.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Just they say. But anyway, what we're talking about right now is just laws, partiality, and we were talking about communications and how, you know, lack of communications can lead to chaos and all of that kind of stuff. But now we're just talking about our views on rules and laws and those kinds of things.
And at the core of our conversation is revolving around coping through chaos, and we start talking about ways to cope, coping mechanisms that, you know, ways in which things that each and every one of us can implement in our lives as far as ways to cope through some of these chaotic times. Talking about 2020 and how that went, and then I think we started off talking about, you know, June the 6th and where that's setting up the year of 2021. So, you know, it's important, it's essential that we have ways of coping through chaotic times, given that the year is being set up as a time that's probably going to be chaotic for a lot of us. Not for everybody, but for
right now. But
I
said it's on gas pedal right now. Like the year fast.
But for a lot of us, it's probably going to be, you know, interesting. Just looking at some of the metrics, thinking about just any area of human endeavor that you can think of is pretty much being touched right now. Like we talked about, you know, the economy, health, talking about politics, talking about relationships, talking about, you know, just what else? Spirituality. You know, all these areas of our human endeavor is being touched right now. And so we're just talking about ways of coping. Like we talked about prayer, talked about good food, talked about connections, our relationships. We haven't touched on, like, you know, economy and wealth and ways to put yourself in good positions as far as getting through these interesting times. As I'm talking, the thing that keeps coming to mind right now, because everybody's focused on it. You already know. Yeah, I know. Not just Bitcoin, but cryptocurrencies. I've been like on it every day, just trying to understand and learn as much as I can. Just given that this is where globally, this is where we're being pushed. So just talking about, you know, all kinds of things, talking about law, injustice, justice, and some of those things. Carla Napier says, when will full accountability be the standard for everyone? That's a good question. A lot of people have been asking that question since the beginning of time, as far as full accountability for everyone. There's always going to be room for growth and conversation around that, no matter where we find ourselves, I think. Stephen Thurston Oliver says, I have hope for the new administration. I won't agree with everything, but the tone will be very different. The tone will be very different, just given, you know, just based on some of the things that the Biden administration has already said, and just thinking about, you know, some of the people that he's put in his different, you know, offices and stuff. So the tone is going to be different. We'll have to see what happens as far as, you know, the beginning, and see what plays out over time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Trump is a kind of classic. He's just that all the time, right? So of course it's different in terms of the tone, the approach. I'm not one that's very trusting of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's
It's the difference between rhetoric.
for me. No, it's not even red. It's just life is a continuum. I don't look at one time as being better than another, that kind of thing. As far as I'm concerned, different people have
Right.
different views, but as far as I'm concerned, it's all the same timeline as far as me living in my life and all of these kinds of things. So you have polarizing figures always in some capacity to some degree. Um, and who knows? For some, Biden may be the Trump in their eyes, and so in terms of the way the Democrats look at Trump. Uh,
And it gets flipped.
Republicans may look at Biden the exact same
Same
way.
way.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's like yeah.
So it sounds like you're expert level as far as coping mechanism when it comes to these things, as far as placing everything in its proper priority. Those things that you have influence over, those things that you can control, you do it, and those things you can't, you say, okay, this is what I can do with that, and what I can't do, I just adjust and move on. Carla Napier says, hold cops accountable and we will see change. Hold racists accountable for hate crimes and we will see change.
No, I agree for sure. She said not the same. I think this was what January 6th shows us. Well, here's the thing though, and this goes back to our conversation on truth and honesty. So, for example, I'll use Carla's example. So, if deep down I'm a racist and I have racist ideologies, if I act out in at one time, does that mean that I wasn't a racist for that? You see what I'm saying? So I know people talk about a lot of people say, like Trump enables white supremacy and those kinds of things. Yeah, in a sense, I agree. However, if I have racist ideologies, I'm still a racist. The time that I choose to enact that is just
you just look for opportune times to
and
express it.
So again, I'd rather for somebody I have more, quote
Respect.
unquote respect for somebody that's just an open racist, because now I know how to deal with you. I'd rather for somebody to just blatantly not like me and tell me than to pretend they do and stab me in the back when in a time of chaos or whatever. So again, it's like we talk about like protesting people's like restaurants and those kinds of things. I'm like, I'd rather know that they're racist because I don't want to go and patronize their restaurant. I don't want to patronize anything they do. I don't want to associate myself in any way with those people because they openly identify themselves, instead of giving tons of my money to somebody that hates me but is pretty much raking me over the coals financially. So when I think about those kinds of things, I understand what you're saying. And again, like Kevin said, a lot of those people were let into the Capitol. Literally, they were let in. They opened the gates. Cops was like, "Come on in." And so now, like in terms of, I understand what you were saying earlier when I said those people should have been shot. I would have shot them, but 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 I understand what you're saying because they were let in. And that's part of the issue as well, going back to what Carla Napper was talking about. So Steve said, I'd rather racists not be emboldened. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of it. I know I'm very dogmatic in my tone and in some of the things that I believe in. However, I do, trust me, I understand it. I'd rather not have to worry about shooting somebody because they're messing with my kids than the fact that they're thinking about it. You see what I'm saying? So that is a very different thing. However, that person is still problematic because of the way they are anyway. So
More comments. Carla Napier, when you cause harm to someone or oppress someone with your ideologies, there should be a penalty for that crime. The more harmful the crime, the heavier the fine, including death, eye for an eye.
Oh, she went
So,
on us.
what's that?
I said she went Moses on us.
So, yeah, so it sounds like thought crime. When you're talking about ideology, you're talking about the way somebody thinks. So are we to
talking about Carla? Yeah.
So are we to prosecute or have penalty for the way somebody thinks or the way somebody behaves?
No, it's definitely behaviors, but what I'm saying is like, so I'll adjust what Carla said. I'll adjust what Carla said, and I'll clarify what I'm saying is personally, I don't care about your individual ideologies. I really don't. Even if you're racist, I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me like it does other people in terms of what you think, right?
You can't. Okay.
If I know that you think that way, then again, I know that, you know what, we're not gonna hang out. For example, there's certain family members that we all have, and it could be on any spectrum or however you are in that spectrum, any given way. Some people you just don't get along with. You just know that you all just clash on it every way. And the fact that you've identified them, then you can separate yourself from them and alleviate all of your stress. So when I'm thinking about in terms of like knowing who racists are, knowing what they think and that kind of stuff, I'm talking about simply from the place of separation to where I don't have to be around them. On the other hand, if you're blatantly being derogatory toward me or derogatory toward whoever, that's a step above just an ideology, right? Now you're trying to enact something to harm me. This goes back to our base statement of what we were talking about just from a human level is I don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be hurt. Let's keep it at that. And we can negotiate and navigate society around that. Right. But when you move beyond and now your intentions are to physically, mentally, or whatever, psychologically devalue me, that's a whole different story. Yeah, like I said, if you think it, you can keep it to yourself, talk to your buddies, that kind of stuff. But if you bring it to my doorstep, I'm going to deal with the kind of stuff, right? And so that's different than thought police, because again, you may even have a random thought, and so should you be penalized for a random thought? Because again, anything that comes into your eye gates, and I'm using Bible talk, the eye gates, but anything to your field of vision or anything that you've come across, it's like somebody that has Tourette's, and if they see it, sometimes they think it on impulse and they'll say it, right? It's not based on intent. It's not based on the way they think. It's just sometimes they just have an urge because that thought has been implanted in their head in a sense. So hopefully that kind of made any sense. Okay, she said no action. Hold on. Exactly. You can't always control your thoughts. You do not have to act on them. Okay. Yeah. I agree on that. I agree on accountability for your actions. Yeah, I agree wholeheartly on that. Because
that's where law comes into play, right? You can only legislate behavior. You can't really legislate thoughts.
You can legislate thoughts. And here's what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying, but the way when I'm saying is you legislate thoughts, because when you put legislation in saying that you're advocating for a specific thing, then you over time do change thoughts. So in that sense, you do legislate thoughts.
Right.
But I understand how you so you can't legislate what's in somebody's head in terms of making them punishable because of the way they thought. So I got you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any other comments?
I was going to say, I thought we hit a hot topic, right?
Yeah. The original discussion is around coping with chaos. Like Kevin said, we've talked about a variety of things. We talked about praying, exercising, eating, cooking, community, Communication, which kind of how we got here. We started talking about communication and then truth, and then so on.
Conversation, be having open, transparent
We talked about
conversations.
this week's events, previous week's events. He mentioned Bitcoin. We hadn't talked about that. Bitcoin is at an all-time high. There you go. We talked about it.
You don't want to talk about it, do you?
No, well, here's the thing. Like, so there's plenty of people that are talking about it that, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, they
Let
like to
them-
find out about it. I'm burnt out on it.
Gotcha.
That's why I occasionally get in on some of those conversations, because again, it's almost like old people in terms of, I feel like an old person talking about some of the stuff because some of the problems no longer exist. You know, if I'm talking about, man, they need to, you know, do better with these wire antennas for these TVs, and I keep talking about the wire antennas, and people are like, what the heck are you talking about? Wire antennas don't exist anymore. Like, you know, I'm sure they do somewhere, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's no point, because the barriers to entry have now been gone, right? So the conversation can be there, but the conversation has to change, because now to me, it's not a conversation about just like Bitcoin anymore. It's a conversation around taxation. Maybe it's a conversation around how you strategize investments. That's different.
Yeah.
Talking about Bitcoin, to me, that's
Yeah.
tax strategy, right? That's investment strategies. That's whatever. Or, you know, as I tell other people, from a general standpoint, there's really not a lot of education to be had, but from a more specific standpoint, in terms of the technology itself, then you can start deep diving on the intricacies of what that technology means, what that technology can do. But the vast majority of people don't care about any of that. They don't care about developing something around it. So for me, sometimes the conversation get redundant based on that point, is that now there's plenty of places to buy Bitcoin. When I got started, you had to find people. Like, you literally had to physically find people to purchase Bitcoin, or have somebody give it to you and all of that kind of stuff. So the conversation has changed, and my interest in it and the reason why I got in it has changed quite a bit as well. So.
Okay. I find solace in listening to relaxing music. Yes, using creativity as an outlet. You wouldn't believe how therapeutic coloring with crayons can be, even for adults. That's interesting, Carla. I did a short stint at Amazon, and that's one of the things that kind of blew my mind, was the explosion of adult coloring books. I think when I was there, we had a conversation around it, and that, you know, being in there, it gives you a close eye as far as what the masses are consuming, and what's popular and what's trending and what's going on. And that was one of the things that just really blew my mind, was the amount of adult coloring books that were exploding. But not only that, the coloring books that sold the most were the ones that had like cuss words in them and stuff.
What's funny, it's almost like little kids' books, right? Because little, like, it was so novel to find something that had a cuss word.
I mean, but it'd be like, you know, cuss words, you would color it in and stuff.
Yeah. So what's funny, it was not necessarily funny, but my wife and my children, they have those huge coloring books, like at scale, and they'll color, and I'm like, man. Like, they'd be like, Daddy, you want to do it? So I literally just take a picture of the coloring book and do it on my iPad.
Oh man, you're defeating the whole purpose. It's got to be
yeah, because I gotta do that automatic fill in the all the color type stuff. Nah, I get plenty of therapy every day. So I don't get a color book. I make them. So
it's cyborg therapy. That's for therapeutic for cyborgs.
Nah, but yeah, it's definitely good. She said
the music is good. Yeah, those colorful words, Mouse. Yeah, the music is definitely essential. That's one of the things that I learned, you know, over the years, is just having music, uplifting, inspirational music streaming at all times. And that really helped as far as coping and getting through some chaotic and tough times. It literally will set the tone of your heart, of your emotions, and it rewires it to always be, in an inspirational, uplifting, encouraging mood. So yeah, music is definitely essential.
Yeah, so maybe somebody can give me some tips, because for me, I find it hard to squeeze in time to listen to music. The only time I typically listen to music is when I'm driving, because I'm not doing anything else. So I need to.
Cause like you
Hey,
need a bunch
we
of
got a
crayons.
ton. We have a ton on, but I ain't trying, because for me it's too small. Like the crayons are too. Maybe I can get those
Yeah,
big.
that's the whole point.
Like, nah, nah, I'm not feeling it. But anyway, one of the things for me is like it's very difficult for me to listen to music like continuously. It would be like maybe like 1 or 2 days a month where I'll like, just listen to some music for like over an hour. But it's very rare. And so I don't know. I just find it hard filling in the gaps to listen to music, because I'm always listening to people talk,
Yeah,
listening to like learning of something, because if I'm trying to figure something out, then I like to hear people talk around about a problem. And I don't know, it's just weird. It's like I like music, but it's just it's inconvenient for me to listen to sometimes, if that makes sense. So, and plus, I hate like being in places where you got music playing and TV going on. I always
oh
hated
no,
it.
no, no, no. Yeah, I
Oh,
can't do that. It's too much. But yeah, when I would like leave like something streaming all day on a real low in the background. Those are one of the things, one of the ways that I did it. That helps me out. What's you say?
I'm sorry.
That helps me out at work. But like old school hip hop relaxing.
I like old school. Yeah, I mean, me too. I'm a hip hop head. But what's
Sure.
funny is I don't. I even limit like that, because I'm opposed to most of the hip hop I used to listen to. I'm just culturally opposed to it. So
Yeah.
that's the dynamic of the love hate relationship kind of thing, So that's the hard part. Yeah, I will try listening to some jazz. My problem is I'm usually like listening to like people like me and Kevin just talking about stuff, or I'll even listen to people talk about art, like their art and the industry. So I'm just always listening to some form of learning based something, and music is never really a part of it.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with Carla with the jazz though. I can remember when I was younger and my dad used to listen to jazz. I was looking at him like
Yeah, old people music.
old people music. But now it's like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah,
Uh,
nah, I get it too, for sure.
Steve said Toni Morrison, audiobooks are amazing. Yeah, audiobooks in general is definitely good. If you find somebody that you like Toni Morrison or somebody, that's even better when they're actually reading the book themselves. But audiobooks is definitely at the top of my list as a way of just um, having a constant stream of information and new ideas and things constantly coming in. Also, it's a way of escape too, just getting into a little bit of fiction.
I just thought about something. Maybe I'll just put this out there, see if somebody jumps on it. Not a lot of people watching right now, but like maybe a chapter shuffle, right? Audio, to where you can listen to audio in a chapter shuffle. And what I mean by that is, because I like short form information,
Mm-hmm.
like 20, 30 minutes. Audio books sometimes, and again, unless I have a mission to listen to a specific thing, audiobooks sometimes are just too long for me. And,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is because like I'll jump from information to information because my interests vary in a variety of different ways. So maybe a chapter shuffle, to where it's like, you could stack in the books you want to listen to, and maybe listen to a chapter of each or something like that, just so you can get it in. But that's
Yeah,
just something.
that's usually how that's one of the ways that like book readers really get in a lot of books is just when I first started out learning how to read books, I thought that you had to read like from page one to all the way to the finish on book by book. But I found out that a lot of people who read a lot of books a year is they do the chapter shuffle, like you said. They'll start out in one book in a
Yeah.
chapter, bookmark it, and then go to another book.
Yeah, just to keep the interest peak. Yeah, because I know I think everybody does to some degree nowadays because of the way information is chopped. But it shortens your attention span. And the only thing that I'm really focused on is what I'm working on. Everything else is like, because after a while I get burnt out. I said, brother, I don't know what the brother was for.
He's like, my brother.
brother. But yeah, man. So again, just to recap, we're talking about coping with chaos and just the variety. Settle in and read it. Yeah, that may be like that's what I was kind of talking about with the chapters, chapter shuffle, like almost like the way they do like you do episodes on Netflix or something, to where it just like, okay, this is my queue. I have my queue of the different books, and it just gives me a chapter at a time from each book. So that way I'm still stimulated mentally and I don't get burnt out by a particular subject or anything like that without having to physically go through and click on each one and switch them out. Because another one, you get convenience fatigued. And what I mean by that is, these things you would have dreamed about years ago.
Man.
Because it's like, man, it's like I gotta, physically go get my album, listen to the whole album. And it's like now you can actually just go through all of these different things, but you get so acclimated to that convenience is not convenient enough, right? And so it's like all the convenience fatigue.
I just want to lay here and have it just like pushed into my brain.
Like thoughts, right? The book slows down, so to speak. I switched. Gotcha. Yeah. And that's kind of like some books, like I'm all in. When I find a book that I'm all in, I like fact-based books. And it's funny, I like fact-based books, but I love cartoons, which are not fact-based at all. So whenever I read, I want to read something that's fact-based. I rarely, I don't think I've read anything outside of a comic book that's fantasy, like ever, at all. I just like information, and my daughter, she's just like me. She's like anything that has facts in it, she'll read it from here to eternity. Outside of that, she's not interested. Like it has to be stuff that she likes, though. So you know how church folk talk about it, Bible's living word. Said good books can have a similar effect, the beauty and language and what it evokes. No, yes. I definitely agree. It's just where my interests are. Like it just my interests personally, and I'm talking about personally, you got to be like those broadcasts. The views and that are expressed here are solely mine and not that of the network. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so for me, I've always been like that. I've always been, I like what I like and I don't veer from it. So I'm that guy.
Yeah. No, I can identify with Stephen Sando. Just the beauty of language sometimes. It's definitely like a good book with good language.
Yeah, I mean.
Perfect. What about love, brother? Books about love and beauty. What about love?
I don't know. Like, and here's the irony of it, right? The subjects that I wasn't really feeling in school, I used to do great at. Like, I have no idea why. Like literature, I killed in literature in college, and I didn't have a passion for it at all, like at all. So I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, beauty, love. I mean, science of it, maybe.
But these are great ways to cope through chaotic times. Is finding yourself a good book.
Talking about me in general, those are definitely good things to do. Good things to read about. Yeah. So I agree.
Man, I gotta tell you, man, I've been like binging on these YouTube guys that's just reading and summing up these comic books.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I've watched some of those too. I haven't watched any in a while, but yeah, those are good. Like the comic series. Yeah. Series, and I'm like, how are they doing this legally? But yeah.
I just been binging on it. It's like one of those things that secret things. It's like, oh, he's about to go all in on Venom, on DC.
Yeah. I watched one of like it was Batman series that I listened to. And
Everybody else is going crazy about what's going on at the Capitol. I'm over here like, so what's Batman about to do? You know?
yeah, because I know like the DC app, they actually have that in the app to where you can like, I don't know if you read it or listen to the comic books. I don't know how they do it. Is that Brid? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about Bridgerton. I haven't seen it.
What is
Uh,
that?
it's a show on Netflix.
Okay, that's another way of coping.
Yeah,
Binging on the Netflix.
yeah.
Now you
I just watched a show called Your Honor. It's like the first 5 episodes. Uh, it was good, but I wouldn't advise anybody watch it right now because it'll definitely get you angry. At least it did for me because somebody mentioned. I was like, I never heard of it. She's like, oh, you got to check it out. So I checked it out. I like the writing, but I don't like the writing. So
got you.
She said she loves Brojerto.
I don't know what's up, but I can't get into anime.
I've never heard of Brojerto. I like certain kinds of anime. I don't like I like heavy fighting anime. I don't like story-based anime. I like action. I'm a action type person, so I've never gotten into Naruto, even though they have good action scenes. I've seen clips, but story-wise, I've never been able to watch it. Dragon Ball, anything? Nah, I'm not feeling it. So like,
a lot of people's feelings, man.
No, a lot of people love Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, how did this happen? Like,
how did I miss this?
Yeah, it's like I watched the episode years ago, and I'm like, I don't get it. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, I like the shows I like were like Ninja Scroll. I liked not Akira. There was another one that I loved. I can't remember, but again, there's just like real gritty battle fighting type stuff.
No, I'm still stuck on Pokemon and Digimon.
No, I never watched. I can't watch the story. I'm not a fan of story-based anime yet. I just haven't. She said, "Has anyone seen Soul yet? Might watch that today with the cocktail." Yeah, I mean, the family and I we loved it. We watched it together. I mean, I like the designs of it. Have you seen it yet, Kev?
No.
Okay. So yeah, it was pretty good. It's I ran into somebody that's like, yeah, man. Say I was expecting to laugh. It was kind of deep for a cartoon. So I liked it. As with anything, you like some parts, you don't like other parts, but overall, I liked the direction of it. Yeah, and for me, a lot of times I don't critique stories. And what I mean by that is I'll only critique it to a certain point, but if I don't like the way a story goes, then my message to myself is then write your own. I can't tell J.K. how to write his story. If I have an issue with his story, I just need to be writing my own. So that's kind of the approach I take towards stories now, because once you start realizing how difficult something to do is,
then
you change about the way you approach critique on it, right? And so that's kind of the way I do stories now, is that I look at it that way. Glad you were able to stop through, man.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. We definitely appreciate it. You take care.
As well as everybody else, we definitely appreciate you being here. But yeah, but anyway, going back to Soul, I liked it. Yeah, I think you should watch it. I think you'll enjoy it. There may be some things in there that like raise your eyebrow, but overall, I give it a thumbs up.
And these are other ways of coping. When it comes to tough times,
entertainment is the number one way that we cope in the U.S. for sure. Around the world, really. I mean, just think about it. There's always some form of entertainment. Music
is
universal.
We like.
Yeah, you find ways to laugh, right? That's because you were entertained.
Yes.
Finding ways to laugh, finding ways to just relax. Even at funerals, even the most dire funerals, you'll find some people laughing. It may seem inappropriate to some people, but it's definitely a way to cope with trying times. I remember like my best friend, my cousin, he was there. We was at his funeral just thinking of stories, laughing, right? Just so you can cope with it and heal from it. Yeah, we're glad you're able to make it, Carla. For sure.
Oh man, yeah, we definitely appreciate it.
Oh man, but
So
yeah.
yeah,
So again, just just the purpose in tonight, just like every other night, is just okay. How do you deal with life? How do you deal with the things that are going on? And these are ways that we deal with it. We love when you guys chime in. Thank you. We appreciate that as well. We love when you guys chime in and give your feedback because the ways you cope with things are just as valid as the way we do it.
yeah,
Gives ideas, gives us things that we didn't think about. So for sure. Yeah, video games. We didn't talk about games. That's
that's
another
a
way
whole
to
nother.
go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I know your
that's a
kids.
whole nother episode.
Oh yeah. So there's just all kinds of little ways, and especially just going back to the whole concept around the quarantine and spending a lot of time at home. We've done a variety of different things with our own children to get them to de-stress. Just driving is a way to cope. Long walks, long drives, same thing. Just get
Yep,
out, see the city, see people in their environments or whatever. Just go house shopping, or whatever,
yep,
window shopping, all
yep.
of that kind of stuff. Just to take your mind off what's at hand, right? Because you have to have these coping mechanisms to deal with work and whatever that work is, right? Just to make it enjoyable. It's like because even the things you love can get tedious at times. So how do you break up that tedium? How do you, get your mind refocused and, de-stressed and all of that kind of stuff? All of these things that everybody's mentioned in the thread and some of the things we've talked about are ways to just cope and get back to it. So yeah, all of these things are definitely beneficial.
So that's all we got.
Yep.
Just talking about coping through chaos, thinking about ways to get through tough times. Talking about connecting, cooking, contributing, and then coping. So that's all we got. Definitely appreciate your time and attention that you give us. We don't take it for granted, and hopefully you get a return on value that is much more than you gave to us. So we appreciate you, and think we're gonna call it a night. Thanks, Miles.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.